Sanat Kaul, who is an aviation expert. Mr. Kaul, the first question everyone at the moment is asking, how did the fuel switch shift from run to cutoff?
There's some mention that there was something. And if this is so, then it's very odd that again, for the second time, earlier the MAX, Boeing 737 MAX had this problem where they did not explain the thing fully because we can't fault the pilots. Pilots were very seasoned, 8,000 hours with the commander. So something obviously was seriously wrong in the system provided by the Boeing, that the fuel tanks were switched off, and if that is the real reason, which is coming out now, and the pilot is asking the co-pilot, "Did you switch it off?" and he said no. So how did they get switched off? Obviously the commander says that it implies that he did not switch it off himself. He was asking the co-pilot, "Did you do it?" So there's something wrong in the system. And therefore, I think we'll only know when the full investigation is done. I hope the investigation will be independent and they will not be able to, come under any pressure and give a full reasoning and look into the various aspects. As already brought out, that there was no bird hit at that time because there's no birds. In any case, they must have gone through the engine, which will find a bird hit or any other cause, which is so many things have been talked about the seat of the pilot slid back and he's not able to control. Now that also had not, they're not very clear on that. So these are some issues which are important. The preliminary inquiry says that it was because of fuel. The fuel tanks were not getting fuel because the fuel switch was switched off. On the voice recorder, the commander says, ask the co-pilot, "Have you switched off the fuel?" And he said no. So obviously the commander himself had not switched it off. Then how did it happen? Did it happen by some odd chance? Something was wrong? Has there been a background to this fuel issue in a Dreamliner? Apparently, there is a slight mention that this has happened earlier, but nothing disastrous happened. So I think we have to wait for a full report. But this is the issue. The talk about RAM. RAM is something which the pilot did as the last minute thing, which he could, which was the only thing which he had to improve the thrust. And he tried it. It didn't work. And if even one engine was working, perhaps there's enough thrust for the takeoff to continue. But both engines failed. So it's very, very odd, very mysterious. And how did this thing happen? We still don't know, but it's very clear from the cockpit recorder that the pilot did not do it. The commander of the plane, the main pilot, did not do it, and he was asking the co-pilot, who said, "No, I have not done it."
My colleague Sandeep Unnithan also now joining me. Sandeep, what's even more shocking is the statement that has come in from Boeing. This is not the first time questions are being asked about this fuel switch, specifically with regards to certain planes that are being made by Boeing. They are saying they will cooperate in the investigation, but no statement on the fuel switch.
Well, absolutely. And, there is that 2018 advisory that we were talking about, which actually mentions that there were several reports from other Boeing operators of the fuel switch getting unlocked. So I think a deeper investigation is required. This is, of course, only the preliminary report that we are studying today, this 15-page report. There will be a deeper report that will go into all possible red flags, possible warnings which might have been ignored, which could have led to this catastrophe in this very short span of time, just 30 seconds between takeoff and this disaster, in which the pilots seem to have been alerted to some very, very unusual events, like the fuel supply to both engines being cut off, and they tried their best to recover the aircraft. So what was this 2018 advisory? What were the circumstances which led to that advisory? Who were the operators who highlighted these issues with the fuel switches, which clearly seem to be the focus of this preliminary report that we are talking about today? What action did Boeing take based on those preliminary alerts that were sent out to sent out by operators of various Boeing aircraft. The 737 seems to have been in key focus at that time, but the 787 was also mentioned as one of the potential aircraft which could have had this problem with the fuel switches. So this report actually, like I mentioned, it actually throws up more questions than it answers, but it's very clearly, it points to some kind of a technical issue that both pilots, very experienced pilots, I mean, the commander had more than 8,000 hours of flying, which they detected at the last minute in the cockpit in just seconds, and they tried to retrieve the situation, before which it was too late. Catastrophic twin engine failure, or it is almost unheard of. And that was basically traced back to that fuel cutoff to those engines. Now, how did that happen? How did those levers go from run to cut off? That is something that this inquiry is going to focus on. So again, many questions that need to be asked of not just the operator, not just the airline, but also the manufacturer. Given the troubled history that Boeing has had, the technical defects which the company did choose to throw, brush under the carpet, but which later were revealed to be, catastrophic technical defects that prompted the, grounding of entire fleets. Mind you, there is another manufacturer there who doesn't seem to have the same problems that Boeing has had in the last, couple of years. So this is very clearly something that Boeing has to answer for. And I think the detailed crash inquiry, which could take several months, that is actually going to give us more information on what really happened. But now I think we have narrowed down, at least the inquiry, this preliminary report has narrowed down the possibility that it is actually something to do with these fuel switches that inadvertently seem to have been turned off. How were they turned off? Was it some kind of intervention? Was it a software glitch? Was it a technical malfunction? That is something that we will have to wait for the detailed inquiry to answer for us.
Right, Sandeep, please stay on with me. Mr. Kaul, a lot of questions are being asked, and today those questions are being asked about the fact that pilots were actually not trained by Boeing. Some of them, they were only given the manuals.
Well, obviously, yes. The answer would be yes. Now, the point is that if you take a general view of what happened in MAX, 737 MAX aircraft, two fatal accidents took place because the Boeing company did not provide enough training. They did not provide training. They only sent a manual. And the pilot was not fully familiar with what to do at that time, at the time of takeoff. So same thing seems to be repeating itself, but I'm not sure that there was something wrong and the switches got turned off. Now, how did they get turned off? The switches for the fuel got turned off. So this is a kind of a mystery which at present I don't have any knowledge with which I can say how this happened. But it's very clear that the commander did not do it, and he is asking the co-pilot, "Have you switched it off?" And he said no. So both of them have very clearly said that this is something that happened. We don't know what happened. How did the fuel stop going into the air, both the engines? That's all one can make out from this immediately from the brief paper that we have seen, report that we have seen. It's a preliminary report